Thank you. Join us now to talk more about the aid from D.C.'s Florida Senator Rick Scott. He's also the former governor of Florida, which just issued a stay-at-home order for the southern part of the state. Will there be another necessary package, do you think, a phase 4 at this point, Senator? And that's a lot of money we spent on phase 3. You have any concerns at all about how big the bill is going to be?
Well, first off, what my focus is, how do you get the money to the people that lost their jobs, and how do you help small businesses? I don't think we ought to be bailing out big companies. So the money we put in for the people that lost their jobs, the money for small business, I just want to make sure that money gets out there as quickly as possible. I don't believe we ought to be funding things like Kennedy Center and National Endowment for the Arts. That has nothing to do with coronavirus. And we are running trillion-dollar deficits already. On phase 4, if there's ways to help workers and small businesses, I want to hear it. But I'm not interested in Nancy Pelosi's pet projects like the Green New Deal or cutting taxes for New York millionaires and billionaires. That's not what we're going to do. We should be focused on how do we stop the spread of this virus.
Let me ask you about just some what's in the news. You're not governor of Florida anymore, but there is a stricken cruise ship, the Zandam, that that may or may not be allowed to dock in southern Florida, I think around Fort Lauderdale. 4 dead passengers, 179 others with flu-like symptoms. Governor DeSantis is on the record sort of saying we don't have the facilities, or it would stretch the facilities of that part of Florida too much and doesn't want the ship docked there. What would you do, or what do you suggest Governor DeSantis does?
Well, what I would do is, first off, your heart goes out to everybody on that ship, and so what I've said is we just got to make sure that everybody is tested and everybody is quarantined before they ever get off that ship. Or if they're going to be off, then we've got to find a place where they have to be quarantined for 14 days. So we hopefully nobody will it won't get worse. So my heart goes out to them, but they have to be quarantined.
Hey, Senator, wanted to talk to you about the governor of Florida and the steps that he has or frankly hasn't taken over the past several weeks, despite mounting opposition from health experts and others who petitioned him for days and almost weeks on end to close down Florida in ways that he has been seemingly unwilling. Can you speak to that? Do you support this governor?
Well, first off, I'm not going to, second guess somebody in the middle of a crisis. But here's where I think Florida needs to really step up. We've got to get more testing done. I think New York has done 5 times as many tests. They keep saying there's all these tests out there. I can tell you, I do town hall meetings, telephone town hall meetings, and people are telling me, 1, they can't get a test, and 2, if they did the test, it's 10 days to get a result. We got to get more people tested, and the reason we need more testing is that if you know you're positive or you're around somebody that's positive, you'll go quarantine for 14 days. But if you can't get,
Senator, that may be true, but isn't that a greater reason, Senator, to close down the state? If you don't have the right testing, isn't that more of a reason than ever to take aggressive action? And when I was asking you about what this governor is doing or not doing, do you support what he has done so far?
Well, I'm not going to second guess him. I just tell you that we've got to get testing up. We've got to make sure we keep this economy going to the extent we can. I put out a plan 2 weeks ago, a 30-day plan. We got to get people to isolate if you can. Don't go out if you don't need to. You got to have robust testing with results now. I mean, look at South Korea and look at Taiwan. Look at what they've done versus what the United States has done. I don't want to continue to head down the path of Italy. I want to head down the path of South Korea. So you've got to get more testing done, not just in Florida, but around the country. Everybody's got to show up. Locals have to, the state has to, and the federal government has to, and the private sector has to. But we've got to get more testing so people know if they're positive or not, so they'll quarantine.
Senator Scott, your state, perhaps more than any other in the nation, relies on tourism. And obviously, tourism is part of what's shut down. The entire economy is shut down at this point. I just wonder what you think about how long some of the social distancing is going to have to take place, how long people are going to be reluctant to travel or told not to travel, and where you'll be taking your cues from in terms of when it's time to open up for business again.
Well, Becky, a couple of weeks ago, I suggested that we shut down the airports. I don't think we ought to be doing domestic or international travel. We've got to figure out and let everybody, state by state, city by city, figure out how to stop the spread of this. I think it's going to take a while, and I think everybody's going to have to stop and say, what are the new rules? Like an airport. Back in I think it was February, I kept saying, why aren't you just even testing people for a fever? But you couldn't even get airports to test for a fever. I mean, we're going to have to change how we look at this in the future. What are going to be the rules? If you want to open up your business, does everybody have to have a mask? Does everybody have to be, 6 feet apart? Do people have to be tested? You have to have gloves. We need to have these conversations now about how we're going to open up this economy, because I want it open as soon as we can, but we can't open up everything if we haven't stopped the spread of this.
You mentioned people needing to be 6 feet apart and wearing masks. Hard to imagine Disney World or Universal opening up again, Universal Orlando, if they've got to be 6 feet apart. You think it's going to be a long time before those places can reopen?
Vicky, I think we have to have those conversations about what are going to be the rules going forward. I mean, because if China keeps creating these, somehow, these viruses keep coming out of there. And we're going to have to figure out in this country to be more like Taiwan and South Korea that take these things seriously and stop the spread early.
All right, Senator. Just real quickly before we let you go, you talked about small business and people that are out of work as opposed to bailing out big companies. I mean, you think we need to keep the airline industry in business, right? What about Boeing? I mean, there are certain companies that obviously we need.
Everybody. I'm a business guy. I want everybody to be in business, but these are big companies. They can go to the markets and get money. And by the way, I've been doing these telephone town halls. Some people are pretty frustrated with these airlines that when Trump said you had to fly back to the States, prices went up quite a bit. And so I've got a lot of people that I've talked to that are really mad about how much the prices went up. And by the way, the other thing we ought to be talking about is China. I mean, China, we clearly wouldn't have the same problem if China had been transparent. So when everybody thinks about buying anything from China in the future, just remember the Chinese government is a significant culprit in this pandemic because they were clearly not transparent.